Unlike anything else on radio today, it's a front row seat for great information with today's leading experts. The Millionaire Maker, Hilary Kramer.
Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Hilary Kramer. Hilary, great to have you back as always on Monday. Lots to get to. The Fed came out last week and decided, I'm going to add another 0.25%. And that's what he did. And we're going to have Scott Martin on later. He told me last week, he goes, no, we think he's all done. Evidently, the Fed doesn't think he's all done. What do you make of where we are?
Well, we have to look at the payroll numbers. Okay, now what came out was that we have unemployment at its lowest rate since 1969. We're at 3.4%. So the Fed cannot be stopped and not be done. For a few minutes there, we thought so, and that's when we had the market just take off like crazy. But not now.
Well, the Friday report was like 500,000 jobs. I haven't seen that number for a month's total in a really long time.
Oh, no. I'm so sorry. I just wanted, excuse me for what?
Yeah, she's going to take a sip of water there and be good as new. But yeah, the report that came out on Friday, and I had to do a double take because I really did think that it was that there was a typo or something, but it was a little over 500,000 jobs that they reported for the month of January.
Right. We had 517,000 versus an expected 188,000. So that's a really, really big difference. So the Fed started talking about this whole disinflation theory, and we all have to just be cognizant of the fact that the most important thing to know is that the Fed has now raised rates so much, more than we're up, above 5%. And being at that point, at any moment, the Fed could decide if we have 2 or 3 really bad days in the market, the Fed can go boom and just, use some of those bullets. And we're going to see short covering take place and the market goes up like magnificently. I want everyone to understand how much the market has gone up. In January, I'm just going to talk about a small portfolio I have of many portfolios. In January, I have a few stocks that I had picked out in June and August. For the month of January alone, I was up almost 24%, but my funds and managed account was up only 3%. So this is proof. I just had to change the topic totally to say, just buy stocks. You don't need to get buried down in all these funds and funds of funds. Go for the companies that you think are great companies, hold them for the long term, and they will treat you well. That's what you really have to do. But Kevin, let me just take a step back here. So
sure.
You talked first about Powell and this 0.25 point raise. Then we have another very important issue, which is that, earnings. And I think that we really do need to talk about Tesla. Last week, just shocking the market with all good news, talking about producing 1.9 million cars in 2023. Tesla being 3 weeks ago, Monday. So 4 weeks ago, Tesla was $100. Now Tesla is a $194 stock. Now, of course, it was $460 a year ago. So, so anytime anyone wants to brag about how they've made so much money on Tesla, you might want to ask them where they actually bought the stock. That's what you want to do.
Might make a difference for sure.
Yes, exactly. Now, we have a nice earnings calendar coming up. Sorry.
Because we are in that season again, and earnings is going to play a big role here in the first quarter.
Right. So we have, I'm so sorry about my voice for everybody.
It's okay.
I want everyone to realize that earnings are going to be really important, what these CEOs have to say. Of course, the one I care about the most is Wednesday, Disney, DIS, after the market. Let's see what happens there. We have companies that are of less importance but still tell us something, like Penske Auto. We want to know what cars are selling, what trucks are selling, what the mood is out there. It'll be interesting on Thursday. We have Ralph Lauren RL. Ralph Lauren was down 7% today. So we have some business, busyness coming, and I do want to have a segment later in the show on the stocks you've never heard of, and one of them, which I really, really love, I'm going to give you a tease right now. Newell Brands, NWL. You know it if you listen to the show, but Newell is only one of two important ones that are reporting this coming Friday. But Newell, good one. So I think that the market has really tricked a lot of individual investors, because we watched our stocks rise. We watched an above 2% day, another above 2% day. This incredible, best month of January, best month in 25 years. And then, boom, the day that everyone starts to buy that morning, we end up down 1.5% to 2%. So everyone has to we all have to be mindful. We have to be careful. Watch very carefully as you go into stores. Where is there a lot of inventory? Where are there empty shelves? Now, it's different if they're empty shelves because it's, flu season. But, someone like me, I've always loved big lots. We've made a lot of money for our subscribers because of big lots. But we're watching it carefully to hear what these companies have to say. Nordstrom has been a big disappointer for, really so many quarters in a row. Used to be the go-to place, but they've changed their merchandising. But we're through the worst of the earnings, which was really seeing where tech ended up. So just like Tesla, went crazy, we saw on Friday, Facebook, which reported, it's now called Meta, M-E-T-A, reported on Thursday, and on Friday we saw Meta up 20%. Now, what's that really about? Is it because people have been fired? Is that what that's about? So we have to understand sometimes it's bad news that makes the market go up, not good news.
Well, and it's good news from the standpoint that the company is trying to be more fiscally lean. So the stockholder is going to get, but sometimes there are people collateral damage in the process of that. I do want to ask you about this. You said 24% for your smaller portfolio that's been active since June or July of last year. I don't know the exact etymology on my portfolio, but I'm just going to say since the first of the year, with a lot of interest in Mobileye and Sunrun, which, of course, we only heard about because of you, I finished about 8.5% ahead just for January on its own. And that's pretty incredible, given what we've been looking at the last couple of years. Oh yeah, that is incredible. But it doesn't take much. So for January, for me, what it was actually a stock that was introduced to our organization by Scott, which is Shopify. So a lot of my portfolio was up because of my Shopify being up almost 70%. Oh wow. Well, that's gonna shape something for sure. You get the big 7-0. All right, we've got a lot to get to yet. We're going to talk about streaming stocks. Hillary's got a very specific thought about that. A little bit later, some IPOs that you're going to want to know about. Scott Martin's going to join us from the Hilary Kramer team. And then, as she made mention in Seg 4 tonight, 5 or 6 stocks that you've never heard of, but you need to. And she's going to tell you about those before she ends with a hot tip in Seg 5 tonight, and we close out the show. So you wanted to talk about a sector of stocks that you really liked called streaming. Streaming.
Now, it's just amazing.
Streaming per se.
What is streaming? So streaming is obviously a sector, but it's also something that we do now, right? It's a TV option. It's the way we have subscription services available, and we do entertainment on demand in our home, and we stream what we want actually, instead of being forced to watch what's on or to DVR. Okay, now let's talk about the streaming service stocks. You're probably thinking, oh, how big could it really be? It's a huge sector, and if you believe in it, on one hand, I could say buy an ETF and have a little bit of all of it. But on the other hand, I think we're better off just picking a few good ones, and we're going to go through those. So you have the streaming entertainment companies, and remember, content is king. And that's where you have Netflix, which had a great quarter, Disney, which, as we know, will be announcing. We have Roku, and we have something called Curiosity Stream that a lot of people have never even heard of, which is one to watch. Watch it pretty carefully these days. Okay, and then we have streaming advertising companies, the Trade Desk, which I have talked about many times.
Yes, you
that
have.
arranges the advertising. And then we have legacy media companies that stream like Prime Video. I don't really know if you necessarily call it legacy, but they've bought so many of the big studios. Peacock, that's NBC. There's
yes.
Pluto. There's Dish. So the streaming is here to stay, right? It happened to us because of COVID, and we want some exposure in our portfolios. Everyone listening should make sure that you have in your portfolio some Netflix, Disney, Roku, and even FUBO TV. But I think Netflix is going to end up being one of the big winners. To me, a lot of the winning in streaming, yes, it's content, but content is only king if you can get access to it. And right on our remote controls, you can get into Netflix, and you can't get into some of the other services.
That's
now,
true.
I personally have found that some of these Hulu shows are incredible. But if you can't get access to Hulu easily, then it's not going to work for you. So Netflix, and you have a whole new administration that's come in there, right? Reed Hastings, the founder, he has officially left. But Roku, for those who don't know what Roku really is, it's actually become the largest TV platform in the U.S., literally.
Yeah.
And so through Roku Channel, they're like a hub, and you can manage your streaming subscription. So it's very similar to what we have. We must have, I don't know, my son is here in the studio with us tonight. We must have 6 or 7 Apple TV streaming platforms that we use, but you can use Roku, something Scott has talked a lot about, our Scott. And let's also just talk about this Fubo TV, which I mentioned. And it's a newcomer that so many of you haven't heard about, and that's because the IPO, that was completed in fall of 2020. It's a smaller service, but it's gained a lot of popularity as a live TV platform, especially live sporting events.
Yeah.
So there's
if you look
demand there.
If you look at all of these, Hilary, and I've done some research on this because Salem News Channel is increasingly moving its product onto all the streaming services, and so you can get SNC on Apple TV, you can get it on Roku, you can get it on Prime, you can get it on the Fire Stick, you can get it on Google Play. But when you go through and you look at all these, there are tens of millions of users for each one. Mm-hmm. And when you think about the access of the internet now being basically in every home in the country, you have greater access to reach end users through streaming than you do on broadcast networks. So you could pay $1 million for a Super Bowl ad, but if you wanted to guarantee access to your ad being in every single home in the country, you would probably look at the streaming services to get placement as well.
Right, which is why they are suddenly, you just hit the nail on the head. You did a bingo. Bingo. You should have just yelled bingo there, really, Kevin. Which is why you need to have exposure in your portfolio to streaming services. You must.
Of the ones that you mentioned, are there any that are in a particularly good buying stage right now? Because obviously some of them are off their highs.
Netflix.
You want to kind of get in when you can.
Yeah, my answer there is Netflix. So Netflix really hit it out of the park with there were such low expectations for an increase in subscription, but the subscription buying was pretty massive. So if you take a look at Netflix, what you'll see is the stock was over $600 in 2021. As a matter of fact, it was towards the very end of 2021, and $612. We're at $361. And let's see, July 2022, we were at $235 and we're at $361. But it doesn't mean that we're not going to be, look, Netflix spent a lot of time in the 400s and 500 range, and we may be back there. I just want to remind everybody again how exciting it is if you are from New Jersey or wherever you're from, the tri-state area, the fact that Netflix has purchased a majority of Fort Monmouth, which was the old Signal Corps, and has been sitting empty. And Netflix is going to be building one of the largest production companies, like a studio. Like, you know how you see the studios when you watch TV, they'll have scenes at the studios.
Old school Hollywood. Yep.
Yeah, that's what we're going to have. And I have mentioned this, and I'm going to keep mentioning it to everybody. What have I explained? The entrepreneur who wants to be close to where the money will be, go open. What did I say? Go open your deli
Dry
down
cleaners,
there.
deli, restaurant, shoe shiner, whatever.
All of it. You know, even those like franchises that do posters and signs, all of that. And because I'm sure that there's going to be a lot of contracted out work. So keep your eye, everybody, on Netflix. And plus, there's going to be a lot of talent coming down there.
Yeah.
So even if what you're into is buying real estate, I think the real estate's going to be strong. Apartments, all of that. So NFLX for me has special meaning, and I'm really excited because at one point it was in the running, Fort Monmouth, when Amazon was looking for an actual headquarters. Remember, they were going to all the different cities, and so Fort Monmouth was in the running, and that was really exciting to think that we would have had 250,000 employees over there. But and then Queens got it, and then AOC ruined it for us.
Then AOC blew it up.
Yeah,
she threw a hand grenade right in the middle of all of it.
She sure did.
Shot it right to Virginia.